Hello, this is Take 5, a 5-minute inspirational message from the Evangelical Alliance of Ireland. And my name is Paul Ritchie. I'm pastor of Limerick Baptist Church, and this week I'm sharing with you my thoughts of having gone through anxiety and depression and my continuing struggle with OCD. The thing I want to look at today is what makes people anxious. Why do we get anxious and depressed? I'm talking here about clinical anxiety and depression, how we can struggle with these things. Well, in Genesis chapter 2, there is harmony. There's no depression or anxiety there, and all seems well. But then in Genesis chapter 3, Adam and Eve rebel against God. They don't want to live under his loving rule. It's an act of cosmic treason. And the result is that for humankind, death becomes a part of our existence. We live under a curse. And that curse affects everything. It affects how we work and that we get stressed. You know, if you have a muscle and you keep using it, it eventually wears out. And your brain is a muscle like that, and overwork and stress will cause you to get anxious and depressed. And we live in a body of decay and imperfection, and everything is affected, including things like brain chemistry. I am sure that there can be genetic and inherited issues in our mental health. And then there's other factors. You go to Genesis chapter 4, and what do you read? You read of a murder, Adam and Eve's sons. Cain murders his brother Abel because he's jealous of him. And personal conflict contribute to lots of our mental health issues. I have a good friend who I've talked to a lot about his mental health, and one of the contributing factors was the bullying he received when he was in secondary school. Or another friend of mine who was regularly woken up by her mother in the middle of the night, and her mother would tell her how useless she was. Those factors that come from other people and living in a broken world of hostility contribute to our anxiety and depression. And then there's a third factor. It's ourselves. Some of the foolish choices we make, our own rebellions, because guilt can be a huge issue when it comes to our mental health. And thank God for his amazing grace that he is willing to forgive us of anything that we have done. But we'll talk about those sort of issues later on in the week. The thing that I want to drive home to you today is the fact that mental health and issues with depression and anxiety are multifaceted. Rarely do I look at one issue when people share their thoughts with me. There's normally a multitude of factors. There could be a hereditary predisposition. There could be a medical route to do with chemistry in the brain, like my friend up north who struggles with schizoaffective disorder. It's a recognizable illness. There can be environmental factors. For example, the people who have hurt us and wounded us. We have a number of people I know who have struggled because they were abused as children, and that has had a huge impact on their mental health. And then there's our own feelings of guilt, and the gospel comes as such good news to them. And because there's a multitude of factors contributing to our mental health, therefore we look at a multiple solution. We look for a multivariate solution. So, for my own sake, I take tablets because I believe there's a brain chemistry issue in my OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I've gone through talking therapies like cognitive behavior therapy, and I've talked to friends who've been great help to me. And then I try to affect my lifestyle. In particular, I try to think good thoughts about God and have a healthy faith. So this has been Take 5, a 5-minute insightful, I was going to say insight, a 5-minute inspirational message from the Evangelical Alliance Ireland. And I hope you'll join me tomorrow when we'll ask the big question, is it unspiritual to be depressed?